President Trump strikes back, lashing out at his nemesis, the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, after she threatened to postpone his State of the Union address. Pelosi's bus was idling outside her office. Literally, there it is, idling outside, waiting for the Speaker to come out because she was heading straight to Andrews Air Force Base to board a military plane heading to Afghanistan. And then she gets this letter. And the only way to show you how childish this letter is, how unpresidential it is to read it to you. So I want to read it. Dear Madam Speaker, due to the shutdown, I am sorry to inform you that your trip to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan has been postponed. We will reschedule this 7-day excursion when the shutdown is over. In light of the 800,000 great American workers not receiving pay, I am sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. I also feel that during this period, it would be better if you were in Washington negotiating with me and joining the strong border security movement to end the shutdown. Obviously, if you would like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. I look forward to seeing you soon, and even more forward to watching our open and dangerous southern border finally receive the attention, funding, and security it so desperately receives. Sincerely, Donald J. Trump. And by the way, like his tweets all the way through this, he capitalizes things like strong border, shutdown. There's those sorts of things in here. But I want to go through some of these words because it's important. Her trip postponed, those are his words, hours before takeoff. Postponed, just like Pelosi threatened to do to the president's State of the Union. That's what this is about, retaliation. And then we hit the word excursion. A trip by the House Speaker in line for the presidency after Pence to a war zone is not an excursion. That demeans the men and women who are serving and dying there. Pelosi's spokesman responding, the purpose of the trip to Afghanistan was to meet with U.S. troops and to, quote, obtain critical national security and intelligence briefing from those in the front lines. Now, hold that thought for just a moment, because the next words to highlight from the letter are public relations event. The president writing, I am sure you would agree that postponing this public relations event is totally appropriate. It was just over 3 weeks ago the president of the United States went to a war zone, Iraq, during the shutdown to visit troops. The goal, to obtain intelligence from those in the front lines. Did the president consider that to be a public relations event? I don't think so. And then this line. Obviously, if you'd like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. The second in line to the presidency does not fly commercial into a war zone. I've flown commercial from Kabul. It is absurd to say the speaker should travel that way. But if this president thinks that Pelosi should fly commercial to Afghanistan, okay, sure, her prerogative, right? Then why is his wife flying on a government plane tonight to Mar-a-Lago? I'm not making this up. Melania Trump just flew on the plane you see there to Palm Beach. Just to be clear, you see the tail. It's not commercial. No, it's not. We're in the middle of a shutdown. She's not going to a war zone. She's going to Mar-a-Lago. And this entire letter, as unpresidential as it is also a breach of national security. The president's trip to Iraq was top secret. Even the reporters on board said nothing until after he landed. That's the way it goes. We keep these things secret so that the life of the president or the first or second in line of the presidency is not threatened. The president revealing Pelosi's plans is simply not protocol, and it is not appropriate. Even if he is canceling her trip, it should not be public information. Abby Phillip is out front live outside the White House. And Abby, does the White House have a strategy, or is this just about retaliation? Clearly, the president wrote it himself with the random capitalizations and all. This is his letter.
Well, it had been 24 hours since Nancy Pelosi asked the president to postpone his State of the Union address because of the shutdown. And a lot of people wondered why President Trump and the White House seemed to have not responded at all to that. And that's partly because, according to our sources, they didn't have a plan. They didn't know how to respond to what she had put on the table and were looking for a strategy. They landed upon one this morning. According to our sources, the acting chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, decided that this might be the best opportunity for them to respond to her. And as you pointed out, one official called it retaliation. And now the president liked this idea and has since liked the coverage of it in the media, believing that Democrats had been seeming to have the upper hand in this shutdown, as all of these stories have been being told this week of federal workers really at their wits' end, not being paid for almost a month now. But with this move, the president once again looks like he's basically sticking a thumb in Nancy Nancy Pelosi's eye, canceling this trip just hours before she was scheduled to get on an airplane to go to Afghanistan. The question is, what happens now? We don't seem to be any closer to any kind of negotiations or any kind of end to the shutdown. The Vice President Mike Pence traveled to the Hill with Jared Kushner a few hours ago, meeting with the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. There was no meeting with Democrats on the agenda, and there's no sense that anything was accomplished. So we have not moved from our starting positions, and in fact, we could be getting much, much farther apart. The tone of this debate has really deteriorated, Erin, over the last several days, and there does not seem to be an end in sight.
All right, Abby, thank you very much. And just to be clear, by the way, the Speaker says she was never going to Egypt and was required to stop in Brussels for pilot rest time. This was a trip to Afghanistan and the war zone.